Hello. Hello, everybody. I am Dan, and it's so awesome to be here. I want to thank the awards team for inviting me. Before we get started, actually, this is the... Whoa! Oh, my God. Whose desktop was that? That was awful. I'm going to pretend that was planned, because it was kind of funny. This is the hashtag, by the way, for my talk today. It's, for those in the back, Dan Cederholm Awards with 3 W's, blah, blah, blah. I thought I would talk. I used to do a lot of talks about CSS and front-end development and design, and then something happened where I accidentally started a company, and that happened, and over the last 10 years, I thought I would share, what I've learned from the beginning to the end. And I've got like 20 little lessons that I've learned, and I hope I can get them all in, because there's only 23 minutes, 20, 45. Okay, this is really scary to see at this clock count. There's a clock counting down for those of you who don't know. What I've learned, and the company is Dribbble, right? So Dribbble, I co-founded Dribbble with my friend Rich Thornett back in Salem, Massachusetts, back in 2008. And about 2 years ago, we sold a majority of the company to a company called Tiny. They're a holding company in Canada, and it's under great leadership now and new ownership. Just last month, I've actually stepped down day-to-day at Dribbble officially to try some new things. And so I thought it's interesting timing here, because I can really reflect on the last 10 years and like what I learned and what just happened there, because it was kind of a whirlwind, coming up. So for those that aren't familiar with Dribbble, it's a community for designers to share their work. This is graphic design, web design, icon, lettering, that kind of stuff. But it's also a place for them to get hired, to create a portfolio. We do meetups and events, and it's become, went from like this side project with a couple employees to now a remote team of 50 people and millions of users, and that's all great and positive, but it hasn't necessarily been completely smooth the whole way around, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to share this story with you guys. For instance, this is me before I started Dribbble. And I looked a little different. 10 years will do that for you, I tell you. Thank you for laughing too. This is great. It helps a lot. So I'm going to go through. There's 20 of them. I hope I get through them all. Number one is choose your partner wisely. I mean, this could be advice for your personal life as well, obviously, but especially important when you're starting a company, or maybe you don't know you're starting a company, like I was, or like we were. This is Rich and I back in the early days, and we were friends, and thankfully, thank God, we're still friends today. And that was not easy to maintain, I think, and that's one of the points. Another point I'm going to get to as well is like how important that is. But honestly, like co-founding is like a marriage. It really is. Like it sounds funny, but it is. And you're going to be. Here's the thing. Even if this is a small, you have no idea what it's going to become. Maybe it's a side project you're starting with somebody, or it can be innocent enough. But the thing is, if it becomes successful, and hopefully it does, you're going to be stuck with this person for a long time, 10 years maybe, in my case. But so it's real critical to be compatible. I think for Rich and I, we were compatible, very compatible, skill set wise. We overlapped perfectly, and personality wise, very different. And that has its challenges over that length of time. I mean, it'll become your biggest, most important relationship you'll have should your thing take off and have legs. So, number two, start with a t-shirt, right? Now you're like, geez, don't walk out the back. This is real, okay? This is real advice. Start with a t-shirt. And for Dribbble, we started with this shirt. I had the logo and the shirt printed before anything was really out there done, which is kind of ridiculous. That's not good advice. But I think having that t-shirt was amazing when we were finally ready to invite people to use the site in like sort of an alpha state. We sent a t-shirt. We mailed a t-shirt and a card, and this is the actual card right here. You've been drafted. Help us, test this thing. So it's like 50 of our friends and colleagues, people that we selfishly wanted to see what they were working on so that they posted. But the shirt guilted them into actually checking out the product, which is really the key there. So, and that's funny, but honestly, like number 3 is your first 100 members. You could choose a number there, whatever. The first group of members that you have when you're building a community or a product that's going to involve people using it is critical. That first group is absolutely crucial, and for us it was especially crucial. These are the people that are going to give you feedback, right away. You're going to be able to get feedback easier from those people. They're going to be vocal and opinionated, and well, they're designers, of course they're going to be like that. But so early creation or curation of that is really important. So it helped for us to say, okay, we have 50 t-shirts, let's send them to these 50 people to sort of lay the groundwork. And then, we had an invitation process built for Dribbble, which allowed, one person to invite this person, that person invites, and so on. So we have this tree. But what it means is that first person, that first group, became super important. So we did choose that wisely. And that leads into number 4, which is pave the cow path. Who's familiar with this term, by the way? Pave the cow path. No, not a ton. A few. Actually, I lie. I can't really. I can't see anything. I don't even know. I don't know if there's anybody here. There's piping in crowd noises, and that'd be a good trick. But pave the cow paths. These, crucial first group of people. What we did with Dribbble is we watched them use the service, right? We were loath to set rules right off the bat. We watched them use it. Here they are. We watched them, create these paths that we didn't really anticipate, and a lot of functionality came out of watching them, and then building, setting up rails for those paths that they've already gone down. So, for instance, somebody's like, what state do you live in on Dribbble? And they would upload a shot, and it's Utah. And then, 400 people replied, basically, with that, and here's where we live. And it turned into this thing that we turned into rebounds, we call them. So it's like replying with a shot or playoffs. And that's just one example of just kind of observing the user base, use your product, and react to that, right? And try not to set too many rules around that. There was some other, let me go back. There was some other sites that were similar to Dribbble early on in the early days, and I think that they set rules, I'm not going to name names, but they set rules specifically on what you could upload and how you use the site, and I think that ultimately was a downfall for them. So, and I should have said this earlier. This is all I don't know what I'm doing at all, and actually that's in one of the other slides, but I should have said, take this with a grain of salt, right? These aren't prescriptions really for you. This is just sort of my experience in doing this and sharing that with you. So number 5, don't be afraid to throw things away. I mean, this is one that was tough to learn, because as a small team building something, and when you put a lot of time into a feature or a big launch or whatever, and then to realize it's not right and it's not the right thing for the company or for the members or whatever, it's tough, but you've got to be able to just chuck it away. Quick example. This is the worst thing we've ever came up with early on for Dribbble. This is really bad, because we had this idea of having a bank of pixels, and you could donate pixels to other members so that they could use those to upload. It's just terrible. I mean, it's awful, because it was these giant amounts. I think that's I don't even know what that is, 2 billion, trillion. There's no commas. I mean, it was awful. And my avatar is even worse. So don't be afraid to, like, we put a lot of time, I mean, it doesn't look like it because it's old too. We put a lot of time into this, back end and front end. And this is just one of many things we did wrong. And it eventually got chucked away before they were out to the public. And that's really the crucial part right there. Okay, and that goes into number 6, which is like persistent iteration over flashy launches. And this always amused me when websites will have a giant flashy launch, like a big, and it's great, and then there's like champagne and or maybe not champagne, I don't know, whatever people are drinking now at startups, but like you know, there's this big deal, and then it's over, and then you don't really remember it a couple months later, you know, what that was. So what we did, because we couldn't afford champagne, is, you know, persistent iterations, slow changes to get to the next place. You know, and that even went down to the logo, the tweaks we made to the logo, for instance. We didn't want to alienate this community, and this is especially important for communities, right, where you've got people that are comfortable. It's like this place they go, and they want to be comfortable. And if you make changes, rapid changes, weird changes, they're gonna be upset about that. And so we tried to do very, very calculated but slow iterations over time. You know, so we would do this internally too, and we would just try to come up with different ways of showcasing the UI that we currently had. We'd settle on it. Oftentimes it was something that wasn't that different from what we had, and that was okay. And then we would get feedback from the team, and so I feel like that was especially helpful for a community that gets comfortable in your space and doesn't want to see jarring changes. So I mentioned earlier, not knowing what you're doing is okay, and that's like, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing. I never do about anything. Why am I here, you're asking? Why is this guy up there? And I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I'm giving this talk, but I don't really. So I think it runs in the family. I have a short story, very short. I love to skateboard when I was a kid. Any other skateboarders or former skateboarders? Yeah. See more people. Okay, awesome. I love skateboarding, and when I was 12, I wanted to build this quarter pipe that looked like this. It was the dream. I was in Vermont, so there's like nobody else built ramps. We had to build them ourselves. My dad, who's equally as unhandy as I am, he's like, "Yeah, I'll help you." He got like his circular saw out that probably was used once before, and he's cutting the first board, and he like cuts right through the power cord, and you know, it's like he was okay. It wasn't like he got electrocuted or anything, thank God. But that moment was really interesting to me because it could have gone a couple different ways. It could have been like anger and super on both of us, I guess, because where's my ramp now? But you know, my dad, I feel like it was amazing because he just started laughing. He just started laughing, and he's holding the thing, and he's just like, ah, and he just like, he put it down and was like kind of patting me on the back and just walked away. And it's like, all right, thanks for the help, Dad. Appreciate it. But it taught me a lot about not, you know, it's okay to not know what the hell you're doing, as long as if you make mistakes, to be able to laugh about it, right? And I feel like that's been my whole career. It's like not knowing what I'm doing, but not being afraid to just try it. And if I cut the cord by accident, well, it's just a saw, and I move on and do something else. So, you know, I think the important thing is be confident in your incompetence, right? Oh, shoot, yeah. And be confident in your misspellings. All right, number 8 is a good one, right? Grow thick skin quickly. This was really important for Dribbble. And it's important for anybody that makes anything, actually, out there that gets seen or whatever. So, because designing for designers is like, wow. Here's an illustration of what it's like to design for designers, okay? I want to point out what's going on here. So the green monster, well, the Hulk, is the designer. And the person in the bear costume is something they don't like. That's usually like a feature that we've just launched that we've spent months on, or it could be just that they don't like the site that morning, and very vocal group, right? It's really hard to design for designers, and we had some tough times in the early days with press about this. This particular article is a gem. We talk about it often in the office, the dribbleization of design. So like, just a little snippet, we have a growing number of people posting and discussing their work on Dribbble. Yes, good, they're mentioning Dribbble, the aggregated results of which are moving our craft backwards. Okay, we're on to something here, guys. We're doing right, we're doing good. Like this is AIGA, maybe you've heard of it. They wrote an article, has sharing got out of bounds? It isn't too difficult to come up with a lengthy list of how this kind of sharing harms the design profession and paints us as hypocrites. Thank you, AIGA. Appreciate that. We're just, a couple people up in Salem, Massachusetts, trying to build something, and that's what we get. I share those in jest because they're kind of funny, but like, then you've got social media on. Jesus, I mean, then you've got all this stuff that it's just constant. We're ruining the design industry. I mean, that's pretty awesome because I mean, if we're that, that's crazy. And then there's this. That one's great. Or, oftentimes it's like, F you, Dan, specifically me. People are passionate about design, right? They're passionate. They love it. I love it. I'm passionate too, but it's hard. It's really hard, right? To see that. And it's everywhere. It's not just in the design world, right? Key for us, I think, early on was like learn who to ignore. I mean, if you do this long enough and you gather feedback long enough, you start to see a lot of the same people like complaining, and you kind of learn like, okay, this person's nuts, so let's not even worry about that one. This person's very angry, and then you kind of say, oh, this person, oh, they have a point. They're just using expletives, and that might be useful. But you gotta be able to wade through that stuff, right? The other trick is to celebrate the positive, right? There's a lot of positive, thankfully, because otherwise, how would you do anything? But celebrate the positive. I remember I have a friend, Jeff Fiend, who started Typekit, among other great things, but here in San Francisco, and I remember him telling me that when they first started Typekit, they would print out like really positive tweets that they got, and they would literally hang them up in the conference room, around the conference room. So when they had a meeting, they could see the positivity. Because it's hard, it gets drowned out. At Dribbble, we created a highlights Slack channel, right? And we'd put all the positive stuff in there so that the whole team could see that. It's good to get critical feedback. It's not good to get non-critical feedback, but it's really important to just focus on the positive stuff. All right, we've got a lot more to go through here. I have to fly. I have to keep going quick here. Oh, trends come and go and come back in. This was great because like Dribbble would always get dinged on like, everything on Dribbble is like these skeuomorphic icons. It sucks. And then now everything's long shadows on Dribbble. Remember long shadows, by the way? This is the craziest trend to me if you look at it, right? It's like very well done, like visually interesting stuff, and then just add a shadow. There was a time when everything did look like that, and then it was like everything's monolined. That's actually great. I think it still holds up. And remember when everything was cats? Actually, I don't remember that specifically, or everything was pea soup green. Back in 2016, it was like that 1 week, right? You guys remember that? No? I don't know. But the point I'm trying to make is that things look trendy, just wait and be patient, because it's going to come back around. All this stuff, it's funny, like skeuomorphic stuff's coming back. Like, it's just, I would tell people, don't get hung up on what's trendy. Go with what feels right for the particular project, because that's the context, right? The context isn't this thing in a wider lens of what's popular today. It's what, stick to the project, persistence. All right, which goes along with everything is temporary, and that's okay. This was crazy because I was going through my portfolio that goes back a long time because I'm old, and this was kind of disappointing, right? So I made really dumb stuff like Toupee Pal, it was like community for toupee owners. Funny enough, I had hair back then, so. Icon shop. I made a thing for Twitter that let you owe beers to people, and even made coaster. There's a T-shirt again. See, start with a T-shirt. Didn't really work out for that one as well, but Corked was a wine social network for wine people that I really enjoyed working. I worked on Odeo, which is like one of the podcasts. Really. So anyway, I'm going through all this stuff that I had made in the past, and I was like, wow, it's all gone. Like, none of it's around. None of it. It's gone. It's completely gone. I mean, maybe it's in like the Wayback Machine or whatever. You can either get depressed about that, or you can think about the bigger picture, right? That all these things that we get hung up on, and these challenges that we have with these projects, they seem like life or death, and then really not, because they're probably going to just disappear at some point. That's pretty depressing. Sorry, but that brings me to this one. Number 11, people in relationships are most important. That's what's important. I've learned this. This is what I've learned. That's the most important part of all this. Pixels disappear and people don't, unless Thanos is involved. But honestly, like, the trick here, I think, is to be kind. You never know when your path's going to cross with people. When you work with them on one project, or you're in a company or whatever. You never know when they're going to come back. You never know when a door could open up with someone else. So I've always had that in the back of my mind. Be kind. Quick story about that. Like, I was working on Odeos this way back, and they were based here in San Francisco, and I got an email. I'll just call him Evan, and he said, "Hey, Dan, we got this other project. It's called Twitter. It's TWTTER." And I'm like, what? He's like, do you want to work on that too? Do you want to do some design for that? And I'm like, nah. I got stuff to do. I'm busy. I'm too busy. And plus the logo is perfect as is. But so you never know what doors are going to open with who you're working with, right? If I was a jerk on the Odeo project, I wouldn't have got that out. And anyway, hindsight's 20/20. But the people that we work with, I think, for Dribbble especially, I feel like the thing I'm most proud about is the team that we built. And this is like the early core team here before our acquisition. But those relationships are super, super important. I am going to fail this fitting all these into the time, so I'm going to have to choose the most important ones here. Stay sharp with side projects. This was key because for me, like as a former freelance designer, and then focusing on a product for so many years, I felt like I was behind on everything. Any kind of technology or that, and I found side projects to be crucial for keeping me up to date. And I'll get into that a little bit more. This is my latest side project. I got 40 seconds. I'm glad I got this one in. This is my next project, which is Adventure Supply Co. It's an outlet to create stuff and make things. And it's also a place to learn how merchandise is made. And it's about a place to make puppets of myself and learn how to video the puppet. And that's me showing off the product. But all these things I learned an immense amount from. And I have no grand plans for this, but hopefully it turns into something. Now, if you don't have to start a business for this to be valuable, I think even internally in your company, do a newsletter if you like to write newsletters, do a blog, offer to host a podcast, or there's a lot you can do internally with a side project to keep your skills sharp and your everything going. So I've run out of time. So this is number 13. There's no 13 because that's a unlucky number. 14 is, don't be superstitious because that's crazy. No one believes that stuff. 15, find a good lawyer and accountant. Yeah, I'm just going to fly through. Identify when you're being stubborn. I have this whole thing on SaaS, how I hated it. Any SaaS users? And then I ended up writing a book about it. So you've got, don't be stubborn. I wish I could just know how to, view source, just go through all these things quickly so I get to the end and then give you guys a chance to have coffee and everything. What was I thinking? Did I have a 5-hour slot here? What? Oh, 25 minutes. Okay. There's that. So write, teach. Yeah, write and teach. Start a blog, write, teach. You don't have to be an expert to teach. Just get out there and start sharing your processes, right? I don't know what I'm doing. I ended up writing books. 18, don't take funding, and nothing more than that. 19, take care of yourself first. All right, this is big, and then I'm done. I have anxiety disorder, right? And I didn't know that until like 10 years ago. And I started getting panic attacks and all this crap. I went through a divorce. This is right in the middle of Dribbble. This is why I'm talking about this. But I feel like it's an important topic, mental health. And that's it. I just wanted to say it because I want more people to talk about it, right? And I feel like a mental health day is kind of a weird term. It should just be a sick day, right? You got to take care of yourself, though, before you take care of your team. It's like when you're on a plane, they say, put your oxygen mask on first before, you do anybody else. It's the same thing. Number 20. Hey, we made it, guys. Number 20. Know when to let go and move on. That means this presentation, because I went too far. But that's where I've gotten after 10 years. I finally know to let go and hopefully share what I've learned and move on. I'll leave you with this too: is that when things start to feel weird or scary, I always say, everything is stardust, and stardust is everything. And that's what's important. So. Thank you very much. Sorry I went over a little bit. Enjoy coffee, but thank you.